Wooster, absolutely lovely to meet you. For people that don't know, you are a fashion consultant to some of the biggest brands. You bought for Barney's and Bergdorf Goodman. You're originally from Salina in Kansas, is that correct?
Salina,
Kansas.
Uh-huh.
You've had an extraordinary career in the last 30 years in fashion, and you've sort of, we're of the same vintage, and our references are very similar. And I'm really curious to learn about what you've kind of morphed into in the public's eye in the last 10 years, because you're an individual, you have inimitable style, as I say, with gentlemen of about the same vintage. And I've always admired your style, and I think you're kind of giving us fellas, you're keeping us relevant, or you're unapologetic in the way you dress, you're always elegant, you're always modern. And also you've got 1 million followers on Instagram, and I just wanted to ask, how did that come about? How does that feel, and what's that like?
So I have no idea how that happened. It feels strange, but at the same time, I'm so grateful because it gives me the opportunity that I have as a 63-year-old man who's worked a long time to still be working in some capacity. And what I'm doing today is in no means what I ever saw for myself. I would have never guessed that I'd be talking to you or on a camera or, having my picture taken, and yet here we are.
And you really are. I mean, you're everywhere. You consult with brands, and you also design for brands as well in Japan and in Europe. So you really are having, from the outside, it looks like the life I had for 20 years in the modeling game. You're flying from town to town, city and country, working with the top people in the game, really. And I mean, I think it's fantastic. It seems like a great life.
Well, it is. And the thing that is, so the fashion business, this life, this industry has given me the ability to go around the world. And that, more than anything else, I think is the single most, other than money, is the single most important thing that I've ever been able to do, single most interesting thing that I've ever been able to do. I'm not one of these people that's been to 1 million places, but I've been to a few places 1 million times.
Right.
And, I've gotten to know countries like Italy, cities like Tokyo, places like London and Paris because of that fact. And it's, to be a kid from Kansas and, never knowing that there was a fashion world that I could be a part of. I only worked in clothing stores because my mom wouldn't buy me a cashmere sweater, and I wanted to have nicer things. And so I really am grateful to her and my father for sort of like insisting that I have to work.
Right.
Because I do have to work, and I need to continue to work, because if I've made one mistake, it's like not saving money, but I've been spending it on the things that I love, which is clothes.
Right. Okay. Well, you really do, honestly, genuinely, I love the way you look. I love the way you present yourself. I love seeing you at the different shows, and you're kind of incredibly inspiring in the way that you choose to dress, and it never feels like there's a shock value. It feels like there's a real integrity to the way you carry yourself, and I think that's really good for guys our age. I think, why not, right?
Well, thank you.
So, who are you? Now I've said all that.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay, that's good enough. How are you feeling right now?
I feel great. I didn't go to the gym today, which is unusual. Monday through Saturday, I always go to the gym, but I had a 6 a.m. phone call, and then you guys at 9 o'clock. So I did not go to the gym, but in spite of that, I feel great.
Good. Have you had a good day? Have they been kind with you when they took your pictures?
I would say it was relatively painless.
Okay, good. Where did you grow up, and what was it like?
So I grew up in Salina, Kansas, and to be a gay kid in the 60s and 70s, not knowing that my condition was not that unusual, was a pretty scary thing. And so childhood to me was not a bad thing. I just couldn't wait to become an adult. I always say that I was like marking time as a kid. I went to college at the University of Kansas. I was in a fraternity, knowing that I was different and needed to be not in Kansas, but also knowing that as soon as I graduated, that's what I was going to do, which in my case was move to New York.
And may I ask, how old were you when you realized you were gay?
4.
4, really?
I mean, you know, I knew that there was something. I mean, it's so funny that the Barbie movie came out last week. Like, I was obsessed with Barbie as a kid. I didn't think I was a girl. I didn't want to be a girl. I just wanted to play with girl things.
Right.
And my parents were very like, you know, listen, dude, you're going to be made fun of and you'll probably have a really hard life if you want to go down this road. But if you do it, just do it at home. Which I think was kind of them doing the best that they could to sort of, you know, help steer me in a direction of like, and listen, I outgrew it. Like in my case, I can say that I outgrew it. I sort of, and maybe this is internalized homophobia or whatever, but like I just recognized by 2nd grade that I was going to get a lot further along if I didn't try to be flamboyant and didn't try to express myself fully. So what I did is I probably channeled that into getting dressed. And I felt like that was the way that I could sort of maybe express myself but not be too outrageous.
Right, wow, okay. But it all fueled your desire to get out into the big world, to go to New York, to have a life that you thought would give you no restrictions. And you could explore, right?
Right, 100%. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, they came out with AIDS at the same time. But yes, it was pretty amazing.
What excites you?
You know, the prospect of travel and waking up in the morning. I'm always sort of like anticipatory of like a good day, even when things are maybe not going the way that I expect, because I know that even through tough times, they won't last forever. In the same way that good things don't last forever, the bad things don't last forever.
And who taught you that? Did that come from your parents, or is that just a natural sort of something you...
I mean, I think I was a naturally optimistic kid and person. My parents, I think, were, my father's still alive, were also naturally optimistic, and they didn't have negative attitudes about people or about life or about politics. I mean, it just, you know, I was sort of raised what I would call normal. Right. I mean, we weren't normal. I mean, you know, we like I grew up with, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and we used to fight and make my mom cry and, you know, do things that you could say would be terrible things to do to a mom. But we were so lucky that we had a mom who stayed home and who provided for us, a father who provided for us, and like they were always married. And I mean, that's a
blessing. It's
right,
great.
crazy.
It's solid. It's solid.
Was really solid.
Yeah. What scares you?
Retirement, or the financial ramifications of retirement, heights, crowds. I really get panic attacky at parades or like big concerts. Okay. I don't really go to those kinds of things. Those are the 3 main.
So crowds, but you go to all the shows. There's got to be a lot of pushing and hustling around the shows.
Well, the men seem to be more manageable than the women's shows. And I've thought about that somewhat too, that like, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. Just because, yeah, it does get to be a little much sometimes.
Okay. What is your proudest achievement?
That I'm still here.
Yeah, right. What is the hardest thing you've ever done?
Oof. I mean, I don't know. At the time, telling my parents that I was gay probably seemed pretty bad. I don't know. That's a hard one.
Okay. Who was your greatest mentor, and what did they teach you?
Well, I've had a few throughout, you know, my career, and you know, there was a guy, Peter Rizzo, who was my boss at Barney's, New York, and Barney's in 1987. Barney's was, in my opinion, the single most important store in the world at that time. And Peter ran all of menswear and was a very demanding, difficult, but he literally taught me everything that I know. And he scared the shit out of me, but I am so grateful to sort of that 2-year apprenticeship that I had with him. But, you know, and I know it's cliche and corny, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think my dad is the single best mentor I've ever had, because he had such a strong work ethic and he is such a good person.
Oh, that's beautiful to hear. Who are your fictional and real life heroes? Fictional and or real life heroes?
I mean, She's also my hero for stylistically, but I am obsessed with Fran Lebowitz because I think
amazing.
she's so hilarious and so 100% astute and accurate. And I rarely, okay, she does not like to see men in shorts, so we completely diverge on that score. But like basically with everything else, I 100% believe in everything she believes in.
Have you met her?
I have.
You have? And
I have. I had a lunch with her.
And how was that?
So it was everything that you can imagine it would be. So there was somebody told me about this, and I've never done an auction a day in my life, but there was this auction for something to oppose like NYU, building, like they wanted to rebuild the entire West Village. So it was some sort of group that was trying to raise money, and it was like $5,500 is what I ended up paying to have lunch with her.
Wow.
It was worth every penny. And it was exactly what you could imagine. It was a little bit terrifying, hilarious, pleasant. Like she was everything that I could have imagined that she would be. At first, I could tell she was probably thinking, "Oh, who is this queen?" Like, but we both smoked. I smoked at the time, and she continues to smoke. And so I think that helped break the ice. I also wore a suit and a tie and dressed up for her.
Nice.
Because I feel like it was a respect thing, but I think she did respect that. And yeah, it was kind of like, don't meet your heroes. In this case, yeah, it was perfect.
And anyone in fictional or not? Could be a movie, could be anyone you relate to, someone in a book, an artist.
I always wanted to be Holden Caulfield, just the idea of like, being like this sort of like kid who, in a way I sort of identified in that I felt misunderstood, but also it just seemed like he had a super glamorous life. And the ability to sort of like go into New York as a kid would have been very appealing to me. So
this will be tough. What is your favorite item of clothing in your wardrobe?
Yeah, I have no clue. Basically everything that I've ever purchased in my life is because I admired the object. Like sometimes it doesn't look good on me, and rarely I've bought things that I've actually never worn. Pretty much I will try to wear it at least once, but like I go through phases. There's moments where I can't answer this question, but I can tell you that the foundational things in my wardrobe, wingtip shoes, I only wear English shoes basically, but wingtip shoes, good white and blue shirts, navy, gray, black, cashmere sweaters, like those things, like if I didn't have those things, that I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
So a uniform, just a constant uniform of just
I call
staples.
it a foundation.
Foundation, that's the better word for it. Okay, what music did you love age 13, and do you still love it today?
So yeah, I should know this exactly, but in 1973, when I was 13 years old, think about it. Elton John was playing on the radio. Stevie Wonder was playing on the radio. Marvin Gaye, certainly. I gravitated toward black music more than sort of white music, but even like the bands, like I don't know, people like. There was just so much good music on the radio when I was 13 years old, or in my teens. And then I loved disco and house.
Yeah, right on. But do you still listen to music?
I do.
Yeah, so
like that kind.
Yeah. What is the most inspiring book you've ever read?
Well, so I think that one of the most foundational books of my life, which again was Fran Lebowitz, she wrote 2 books, Social Studies and Metropolitan Life. Metropolitan Life came first. And when I read those books, when they came out, like in the late 70s and then early 80s, it was as though it was written for me, even though I had no idea about the references, but it was like I inherently understood it. The other book that was like super seminal for me was the Preppy Handbook.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Well, it's this book. I still have the original copy that I had. Lisa Birnbach wrote it, and it was this meant to be kind of a joke, but it was kind of a Bible for a way of, and I, use that as like, oh, these are the things that I need to say to the universe that like, I look a certain way.
Yeah, so you really wanted to, aspired and sort of imagined a life out of Kansas and into the big metropolis. So you really sort of found your clues,
100%.
put it on a vision board, and went for it.
Right. Didn't know that that's what I was doing, but that's
Right,
what I was
that's
doing.
what you did. Yeah, no, I mean, I did it in a way. I remember I was living in a northeastern industrial town, and it rained a lot. And one night, coming back from a friend's house, I saw a billboard of two couples, young, two guys, two girls, in the swimsuits in a tropical island. And I'd never been to a tropical island. And I thought, I want to do that one day. I want to go somewhere like that. I don't want to stay here. I want to get out. And it happens. So it is funny how the subconscious takes in these different stimuli, these different ideas, and if you're into it and if you go for it, and you're not afraid to, you don't stay where you feel that society wants you to stay. You're not in that box. You're willing to break out of that box, and things can happen.
I think 100%. I 100% believe and subscribe to that idea. I know it's true for me, but I do think that you have to do some work in that regard. You have to be signaling to the universe that you're willing and able to do that. And part of that's by, keeping your word, showing up on time, having a job and not waiting for it to happen to you, but just going out and making it happen.
Yeah. Keeping your word, having a job. Yeah, exactly. Making an effort. What is a movie that left a lasting impression on you?
Oh, God. The movie that I've seen the most times in the theater is Moulin Rouge.
Oh, it's a great movie.
I love that movie so much. I just thought it was like so. Another movie, the other two movies that I watch virtually every time that they're available is The Devil Wears Prada and Crazy Rich Asians. I love
really?
like on planes. And the third one is La La Land.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. You like your music and your fashion.
I do.
What is your favorite word or saying?
Fuck.
Well, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? I know it's a tough one. It's an odd one. It gets funny responses.
He sure dressed well. Which they won't say.
Oh, I will if I outlive you.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'll say you sure dress well and you're a lovely man.
Thank you.
And finally, quick five. What's your favorite car?
Not the one I drive.
What do you drive? Go on, tell me.
I drive a Tesla.
Oh, okay.
A Model 3, the cheap one. I say it's like the Toyota Camry of cars. Like, it's so not special. They have no customer service. And so although I love the device, I think the actual machine is cool and fine. It's just, I hate everything that Elon Musk stands for right now, even though it's amazing that that we have electric cars.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right thing to be driving.
So, but what car would you have if you had?
A Defender.
Oh, yeah. What color?
Olive green.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Sports team. Okay.
Beyonce.
Meal. What's your favorite meal?
Steak, baked potato, shrimp cocktail.
Oh. Grooming product?
Well, I love an eye cream, a serum, and a moisturizer, and I'm loyal to a few, but Natura Bissé, Dr. Barbara Sturm are probably my two favorites right now.
And finally, favorite clothing label?
Comme des Garçons.
Oh yeah, Comme des Garçons, great. Where would you like to be 10 years from now?
Retired.
And where would you live?
Either New York or Palm Springs.
Okay.
I feel like New York would actually be a great place to be retired.
Yeah, there's so much there. The museums, the parks.
And and again, I just heard Friendly would say this on something, and it's so true, because they were saying, like, isn't it New York a terrible place to be an old person? She goes, no, New York is a fantastic place to be an old person. And the person said, why? And she went, we have doormen. And it's like, oh my God, exactly.
Exactly. Well, look, absolute pleasure. Thank
John.
you so much for having us in your home. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you more.